In a world slipping into shadow, where every promise hides a price, the next chapter of humanity's fate begins. This is Starborn Tales. Small fires of resistance in a world going dark. Their plan was simple: gather evidence, expose the truth, spark global awakening. But the Valorum were always one step ahead. Safe houses were raided, communications intercepted, members disappeared. The network crumbled faster than it formed. Sarah realized they were being hunted systematically, their every move tracked. Then came the announcement that shattered everything. The Valorum requested a global assembly. Every nation's leader broadcast to every screen on Earth. Humanity gathered to watch, curiosity mixed with unease. The Valorum ambassador, Korth, addressed the world with his usual gentle smile. "Friends of Earth," he began, "we have walked among you for months now. We have shared, learned, grown together. But we must be honest. Your world faces threats you cannot see, dangers from a cosmos that would destroy you without our protection." He showed images, alien fleets, monstrous and vast, lurking at the edges of known space. These are the Drakkar. They consume worlds. They enslave species. And they are coming here. Gasps rippled through audiences worldwide. Fear bloomed instantly. "We can protect you," Korth continued, "but only if we act decisively. We propose unified planetary defense. All military forces integrated under joint human Valorum command. All resources pooled. All nations united under single emergency governance." He paused, letting the weight settle. "This is not conquest. This is survival. Will you trust us to save you?" The answer came swiftly. Leaders voted overwhelmingly in favor. Within 48 hours, the Earth Defense Coalition was established. Valorum commanders assumed control of nuclear arsenals, satellite networks, military installations worldwide. Humanity had just handed over complete control of its defenses. Sarah watched it happen from a bunker in Iceland, surrounded by the last surviving Ember Coalition members. There were 12 of them left. "It's over," someone whispered. But Sarah shook her head. "No, this is just the beginning." Because she'd done something nobody knew about. She'd hacked into a Valorum communications satellite weeks ago, intercepting fragments of encrypted transmissions. She'd spent months decoding them with help from a brilliant cryptographer who'd since disappeared. She finally cracked the code yesterday. The messages were between Valorum commanders, discussing Earth's conquest. But one phrase appeared repeatedly, chilling in its simplicity. "The Drakkar threat is fabricated. Humans believe because they fear. Fear makes them obedient. There was no alien invasion coming. The Valorum had invented the threat to justify total control." Sarah gathered her surviving team. "We need to broadcast this. Everywhere. Every channel, every network, every screen. Show humanity they've been lied to." "They'll kill us," someone said. "They'll kill us anyway," Sarah replied. "At least this way we fight." They began preparing the broadcast, racing against time. But outside, Valorum ships were already moving into position above major cities. The masks were about to come off. The broadcast went live at dawn. Sarah's face appeared on screens across the planet. Hijacked news networks, hacked social media feeds, emergency alert systems. Everywhere humanity looked, they saw her exhausted eyes and desperate plea. "My name is Dr. Sarah Chun. What I'm about to show you will change everything." She played the intercepted Valorum transmissions. The alien voices, cold and calculating, discussing Earth's conquest, the fabricated Drakkar threat, the systematic manipulation of human leaders, the timeline for complete subjugation. "They've been lying from the beginning," Sarah said. "There is no invasion. There is no cosmic threat. Only them. Only conquest disguised as friendship." For 17 minutes, the broadcast ran. 17 minutes of undeniable truth flooding into billions of minds simultaneously. Then the screens went black. Valorum ships activated suppression fields, cutting communications worldwide. Internet collapsed. Power grids failed in sections. Emergency services went silent. In the sudden darkness and confusion, people stumbled into streets, shouting, demanding answers. Some believed Sarah. Others called her a terrorist, a liar trying to destroy humanity's salvation. Arguments erupted. Fights broke out. The fragile social order the Valorum had carefully constructed began cracking. But it wasn't enough. Within hours, government officials appeared on restored networks with unified messages. Dr. Chun is a dangerous extremist. Her broadcast was fabricated propaganda. The Valorum remain our trusted allies. Remain calm. Remain united. The statements were delivered with perfect synchronization, identical phrasing, mechanical precision. Sarah's team watching from their bunker felt sick. These weren't leaders anymore. They were puppets, strings pulled by alien hands. Still, seeds of doubt had been planted. Protests formed in major cities. People demanded investigations, transparency, proof. The carefully built trust between humanity and Valorum began fracturing. The Valorum response was immediate and brutal. Without warning, their ships opened fire on protest gatherings, not with conventional weapons, with energy pulses that swept through crowds like invisible hands, crushing bodies, collapsing lungs, stopping hearts. Thousands died in seconds. The streets ran red. The world watched in horror as their gentle alien friends became executioners. Emergency martial law is now in effect. Korth announced, his voice devoid of warmth now. Resistance will not be tolerated. Obedience ensures survival. This is your only warning. Humanity reacted as Sarah knew it would, with fury and violence. Military commanders who retained their loyalty to Earth turned their weapons on Valorum installations. Bases were stormed. Partnership centers attacked. In Beijing, Moscow, Washington, and London, coordinated strikes targeted alien facilities. For a brief, shining moment, humanity fought back united, but the Valorum had prepared for this. The military systems humans relied on, communications, satellites, targeting systems, had been integrated with Valorum technology months ago. With a single command, the aliens shut it all down. Missiles fell dormant in their silos. Fighter jets dropped from the sky, electronics dead. Naval vessels drifted powerless. Soldiers found their weapons disabled, their armor useless. The Valorum had built humanity's dependence perfectly. Now they pulled the plug. Worse, the leaders who'd been bought, the generals, politicians, corporate executives who'd accepted bribes and sold their loyalty, turned on their own people. They commanded forces still under their control to stand down, to surrender, to submit. The Valorum offer mercy to those who comply. They said, reading from scripts with hollow eyes. Betrayal came from within, just as devastating as any alien weapon. General Raymond Cross, the man who'd chosen his family over the world, ordered his troops to lay down arms. We can't win this fight, he told them. Save yourselves. Surrender. Thousands obeyed. Thousands more didn't. The battles that followed were chaotic, desperate, and hopeless. Human resistance fighters, soldiers, civilians, anyone willing to stand, fought with everything they had, rifles, explosives, bare hands. They attacked Valorum positions knowing they'd likely die. Many did. Sarah and her team joined the fight in Iceland, linking up with scattered military units. She'd never fired a weapon before. Now she held a rifle, hands shaking, watching Valorum ships descend through smoke-filled skies. We're buying time, the commander beside her said, getting civilians to shelters. Every minute counts. They held their position for 3 hours. When the Valorum finally overran them, only Sarah and 4 others escaped, fleeing through underground tunnels while their comrades died covering the retreat. Around the world, similar stories played out. Brave stands, desperate sacrifices, small victories that meant nothing against overwhelming power. The Valorum were too advanced, too prepared, too deeply embedded. Every system humans relied on had been compromised. Every advantage surrendered months ago in exchange for medicine, technology, comfort. Humanity had sold the weapons that would defeat them. Within 2 weeks, organized military resistance collapsed. Cities fell under Valorum control one by one. Tokyo, Paris, New York, Mumbai, all occupied. Alien forces patrolled streets, enforcing brutal order. Humans who resisted were executed publicly. Those who complied were herded into designated zones, processed, cataloged. The survivors of Sarah's team watched from a hidden bunker in the Scottish Highlands as the world burned on flickering screens. "We lost," someone said, voice dead. Sarah stared at footage of London in flames, Valorum ships hovering over the ruins of Parliament. She thought of Marcus, murdered for seeking truth. She thought of Adeyemi, destroyed for standing firm. She thought of billions who believed the lie, trusted the smile, welcomed a knife that cut their throats. "We lost because we were already divided," she said quietly. "They didn't need to conquer us. They just needed to buy enough of us. The rest was inevitable." A transmission came through on emergency frequencies. Kortha's face appeared, addressing the remnants of human resistance. "Your war is over. Your world is ours. But we are not monsters. Surrender, and you will be treated fairly. Work with us, and you will survive. Continue fighting, and you will be eliminated. The choice is simple." He smiled, that same gentle smile he'd worn when arriving as a merchant of peace. "Welcome to the new Earth," he said. "Welcome to Valorum." The transmission ended. Sarah looked at her 4 remaining companions. Young faces, old eyes, covered in ash and blood. "What do we do?" one asked. Sarah had no answer. Outside, the wind howled through a world that no longer belonged to humanity. Every major city occupied. Every military defeated. Every government collapsed or corrupted. Earth had fallen, not in glorious battle against impossible odds, but through slow corruption, systematic manipulation, and the bitter truth that humanity's greatest weakness wasn't its weapons or technology. It was itself. 6 months passed. The Earth Sarah once knew was gone, replaced by something unrecognizable. Valorum ships hovered permanently over every major city, silent sentinels of occupation. The skies had changed, streaked now with the exhaust of alien transport vessels moving resources off-world. Humanity's wealth, minerals, water, even genetic material, all cataloged, processed, shipped to distant Valorum worlds. The planet had become a factory, its people laborers. Sarah moved through the ruins of Edinburgh, collar raised against the cold wind. The city was a shell. Beautiful architecture stood intact. The Valorum had no interest in destroying what they could use, but emptiness haunted every street. Humans walked with heads down, faces blank, moving between designated work zones and residential compounds. Everyone wore identity bands on their wrists. Gray for general laborers, blue for technical workers, red for those in re-education. The bands tracked location, monitored health, delivered punishment for disobedience. A shock that brought you to your knees if you strayed from approved areas or spoke forbidden words. Sarah's band was black. Resistance fighter. Wanted for execution. She'd removed it months ago using a plasma cutter, scarring her wrist badly. She moved through shadows now, using forged documents, changing appearance constantly. The 4 who'd survived with her were dead, caught in various raids, executed in public squares as examples. She was alone, but not entirely. Pockets of resistance still existed, scattered and desperate. They called themselves Embers, after Sarah's original coalition, and they operated in the cracks of Valorum control, sabotage missions, information smuggling, helping people escape work camps. Small acts of defiance that meant everything and nothing. Sarah had become something of a legend among them, the woman who'd exposed the truth, the scientist who'd sparked humanity's last stand. They looked at her with hope she didn't feel. Tonight, she met with a resistance cell in an abandoned subway tunnel. 15 people, mostly young, armed with scavenged weapons and desperate courage. "We hit another transport convoy last week. Their leader, a former soldier named Marcus, no relation to journalists, but the name haunted Sarah, reported, freed 43 workers bound for the mining operations in Australia. Where did they go?" Sarah asked. Marcus hesitated. Underground networks. Hidden communities in remote areas. Places of Valorum haven't bothered to control yet. Yet, Sarah repeated. The word hung heavy. The Valorum were methodical. They'd eventually sweep every corner of the planet, rooting out all resistance. "We're buying time," Marcus said defensively. Every person we save, every shipment we disrupt, it matters. Sarah nodded, though exhaustion weighed on her. 6 months of running, fighting, watching people die. For what? The Valorum controlled everything. Earth's governments had been dissolved, replaced by a single Valorum administrative authority. Human collaborators, those who'd sold out early, serve as managers, overseeing their own kind's enslavement in exchange for better food, safer housing, the illusion of status. General Raymond Cross was one of them. Sarah had seen him on propaganda broadcasts, standing beside Valorum administrators, encouraging compliance. Cooperation brings peace, he said with dead eyes. Resistance brings only suffering. He'd chosen his grandchildren over the world. Now he watched his grandchildren grow up in chains, convinced he'd save them. The meeting continued. Plans were discussed. A medical supply raid. Forging identity documents. Smuggling children out of re-education centers where the Valorum were reshaping young minds, teaching them to love their conquerors. Sarah contributed what she could. Technical knowledge, security protocols she'd learned. But her heart wasn't in it. She'd seen this story before. Resistance movements crushed beneath overwhelming force. Hope strangled slowly. After the meeting ended, she walked alone to the tunnel darkness. Her footsteps echoed off concrete walls covered in graffiti. Most of it was old, human art from before, but new messages appeared too. Remember who we were. Never surrender. Earth will rise. Desperate words in permanent marker, shouted into the void. Sarah stopped before one message, hand-drawn and careful. We trusted too easily. Yes, she thought, that was humanity's epitaph. She emerged into the night, watching Valorum ships drift across the stars. Beautiful, terrible, victorious. They'd won so completely that military occupation was barely necessary. Most humans simply obeyed now, too broken or too afraid to resist. The propaganda worked perfectly. Daily broadcasts reminded people of the chaos before Valorum arrival. War, disease, climate disaster. We brought order. The messages said, we brought peace. Your suffering now is temporary, necessary for the greater good. Some believed it. Many had no choice but to believe it, because the alternative, accepting they'd been enslaved to their own greed and division, was too painful. Sarah's communicator buzzed. Encrypted message from an unknown source. She almost deleted it. Security protocol. But something made her open it. Dr. Chun, there are others like us. Organized. Larger than you know. We're not fighting to win. We're fighting to remember. So that someday, if humanity survives, they'll know we didn't go quietly. Meet us. Coordinates attached. Come alone. Sarah stared at the message for long minutes. It could be a trap. Probably was. The Valorum had infiltrated resistance networks before, using captured members as bait. But what did she have to lose? Death? She'd accepted that months ago. She followed the coordinates to an abandoned factory outside the city. Inside, she found not 15 people, but hundreds. They'd gathered from across Europe. Fighters, engineers, doctors, teachers, parents. All wearing black bands, or no bands at all. All still refusing to submit. An elderly woman stepped forward, leaning on a cane. Professor Elena Volkov, Sarah remembered, physicist, had refused to work on Valorum projects. We're not delusional, Dr. Chun, Elena said. We know we can't defeat them militarily, but we can preserve something. Knowledge, history, truth. We're building hidden archives. Everything about who we were, what happened, how we fell. Buried in locations the Valorum will never find. For who? Sarah asked. Who's going to read them? Our children. Their children. However long it takes. Elena's eyes burned with quiet fire. Empires fall, Dr. Chun. Even Valorum ones. Maybe not in our lifetime. Maybe not for centuries. But nothing lasts forever. And when they finally leave or collapse or move on to easier prey, humanity will still be here. And they'll need to know the truth. Sarah looked around the room. Exhausted faces. Scarred hands. Eyes that had seen horrors but hadn't surrendered hope entirely. She thought of Marcus, the journalist who died for truth. Of Adeyemi, who'd stood firm knowing it would cost everything. Of the billions who'd fought and lost but fought anyway. "What do you need me to do?" she asked. Elena smiled. "Tell your story. Every detail. We'll preserve it. We'll make sure it survives." So Sarah talked. For hours, she spoke into recording devices, telling everything. The arrival, the manipulation, the corruption, the fall. Her words would be hidden in digital and physical formats, buried in places that might survive centuries. She spoke for the dead, for the betrayed, for the future. When she finished, dawn was breaking. Through factory windows, she watched Valorum ships patrol the morning sky. Earth's new masters, ruling a world they'd conquer without firing a shot until the very end. Humanity had defeated itself, sold itself, betrayed itself. But in this factory, in others like it scattered across the dying planet, small flames still burned. Not enough to win, just enough to remember. Sarah Chin walked out into the occupied world. Identity bands still missing, death warrants still active, hope still fragile but unbroken. She would keep fighting, not because she believed in victory, but because surrender meant forgetting who they'd been. And someone had to remember. Someone had to carry the truth forward into whatever dark future waited, preserving it like a seed buried deep, waiting for distant spring. The Earth belonged to the Valorum now, but the story, the terrible, honest story of how humanity fell, would survive. And someday, somehow it might matter, even if only as a warning whispered across the centuries. This is what happens when you trust too easily, when greed outweighs unity, when the price of everything blinds you to the cost of your soul. Remember us, learn from our fall, and never, ever make our mistake again. And so, Earth fell not to war, but to its own weakness. Yet in the ashes, whispers of resistance remain. Until we meet again among the stars, remember, you are watching Starborn Tales.